G'day and welcome to The Outer Side. I'm Tony, and in this episode I'm joined by Amie Duncan, arguably the better half of the Mad Rig. Amie's a content creator and she's spent a lot of time travelling Australia with her husband Mitch and her young boy Rides. Amie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so where do we start with you? How did you get into four-wheel driving in the first place?
Probably through Mitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did you grow up doing outdoorsy stuff? Were you like camping as a kid and doing outdoor activities?
Not with family, with a couple of exes. I did some swag trips to the snow and that, but yeah, it was more wakeboarding and that sort of thing, not so much four-wheel driving and camping and touring.
And then you met Mitch, who I described in the previous episode as an action man.
Action man, yeah, my action man.
Yeah, so basically anything adrenaline based or outdoors is him, right?
And he's like professional level straight away.
Yeah, he's very annoying at that. Yeah. He's one of those people that just can pick up anything and be good at it, and is extremely frustrating. So you guys have been together quite a while now.
Yeah, married 10 years in Feb.
Wow. So now, through your relationship with Mitch, you've had a lot of exposure to camping and four-wheel driving.
Heaps,
you guys have travelled Australia. You've been to every state, I think we worked out the other day.
Yeah, every state. Yeah.
And along the way, you've also had a kid and pretty much raised him on the road.
Yeah, the last 2.5, 3 years, I think we've been homeschooling him. So, but we actually tried to do our lap in 2020 when Rides was 4, and that's when COVID happened. So it actually, kind of threw a spanner in the works, but then we hit the road again. And
yeah, we spoke about that, and something I didn't know about you guys was that you were very close to becoming lighthouse keepers.
Yes.
And I think that is a missed opportunity, personally.
Well, I don't think, we hate the cold, so we did not want to spend who knows how long in winter in Tassie. And even summer in Tassie is not warm. Yeah, no, I've
just got back from there and it was like 20 degrees one day and everyone was saying how hot it was. It's not the same. Mate.
And with COVID, it was like indefinite for that period of time. We just couldn't be promised how long it was going to be. So we just thought it was either become lighthouse keepers for who knows how long or head home to mum's and just see that stage through and then hit the road again later. So.
Yeah, sweet. So how I actually came across you guys, like we ended up meeting through mutual friends, but before that happened, I came across the Mad Rig on Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
And lots of video content and lots of really cool photos. And I never knew who was who in the relationship, but as Mitch said on the episode the other day, you're the one that's the creative in the partnership. Mitch is the action man that does all the crazy stuff and you're there to capture it, which is pretty cool.
Which I think has been a hard thing for me, like really hard to be behind the scenes and to not... I am very driven by acknowledgement and Mitch isn't. Yeah. Mitch could not care less if people acknowledged him or not. Yeah. Whereas I'm very hardwired to need acknowledgement, and so to edit for that many years and everyone think that it's, all Mitch was it's been a process.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what is so unique about you guys as well, in terms of like in that whole influencer content creator space, it's all about like big personalities and like attention seeking, dare I say it, for a lot of people. And you guys were just kind of like doing your thing, right?
Yeah, and I think we kind of went the other way. We tried to stay private, which I think was to our detriment in the long run, not letting people in. Yeah. And we still probably don't that much. And a few people along the way have said to us, like, we love you guys so much. And we just wish that everyone on Instagram could like know you the way we know you. Yeah. And I just feel like we've never quite let our personalities shine through. Like I do my video edits all to music and the photos, I guess, show a bit of our personality, but you can't know unless...
Yeah, there's very little talking. It's not like you're doing pieces to camera and you're not doing like big, I guess, sell jobs on brands, which is like part of the appeal, I guess, and why you guys are a little bit different. But have you always been, I mean, I know you very well now and I know you're a very creative person, but is that something that, like, were you into the arts when you were younger and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, and my mum loves painting and art, and so mum's very creative. Yeah. And I used to love drawing when I was younger in school. And then I kind of lost it because in high school in art, you have to do all the theory stuff and you have to do the history of art, and like that didn't interest me at all. I just wanted to be creative. And yeah, I really, really lost my creative spark in high school. So
I absolutely understand that, because
Yeah.
the same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, art at school was so restrictive.
Yeah.
And like the art theory is just like, it's just boring.
Yeah.
Like, and it's very, it crushes creativity rather
Yeah.
than embraces it, right?
Yeah.
So then after school, the photography and the videography, did that start with the outdoors stuff, or?
Yeah, when Mitch and I got together. So
Yeah.
I actually didn't really do much of that until we got a GoPro.
Yeah, right.
And then I was filming everything. Like Mitch loved GoProing too, because he was a skydiver and like did all that. So us coming together brought that, I guess, creative spark for both of us.
And having cool stuff to shoot, I suppose, right?
Yeah. And it was all couples content. And then obviously once rides came, it was family content.
Yeah.
And then, I just started in iMovie, then went to Premiere Pro, and just expanded from there.
So have you had any training, or have you just figured it out as you go?
I actually was self-taught.
Yeah.
And then Mitch spoke to a guy called AJ, just Roughing It. Did you ever meet him? Yeah. No. Okay. So he was one of like the OG full drive.
Yeah. Right.
Content creators, like super OG, and he's also a wedding videographer.
Yeah,
Not
right.
anymore, I don't think, but we wanted to buy a Patriot back then.
Yep.
And AJ had a Patriot.
Ah, true.
And so Mitch reached out to him, I think, on Instagram, and he said, "Hey dude, can I just call you?" This is AJ said to Mitch, "I'll just call you." And he raved on about this trailer. And Mitch just wanted some feedback from someone who wasn't being paid to say anything as well. Like, it was like genuine opinion.
Yeah, like real world feedback sort of thing.
Yeah. And then he said to Mitch, "Oh, I've seen your page. Who does your editing? It's really good." And then Mitch said, "Oh, actually Ames does, but she's struggling pretty bad at the moment because her computer keeps crashing and like all this stuff." And he's like, "Well, if she ever wants a hand, like, let me know."
Oh, amazing.
And so I reached out to AJ, and he did screen sharing with me on my laptop. And he just said, "Dude, you need a faster computer. Your laptop is not capable of keeping up." And I thought there was something wrong with me editing, but it was actually my computer wasn't compatible with the program.
Yep.
And so he actually said, "If you're keen, I know how to build, just as a hobby, gaming computers. That would be a beast for you to edit on."
Yeah.
And he said, "I can get all the parts," because he was up in Mackay. So
yeah, right.
I hadn't actually met him until recently, but he was up in Mackay, so there was no way he could like come over and help me build a computer. So he got all the parts shipped to, so he put a shopping list together, I paid for it, and it all got shipped to my house. And we were on FaceTime to each other for like 3 weeks straight. And he helped me through FaceTime build a gaming computer. I've never ever, like, it was insane. And I was like, "So does this bit go here?" And he's like, "Nah, over that way a bit." I'm like, "This one?" He's like, "Yeah, glue that to that." Like, just
what an absolute legend.
3 weeks of his time, like every day. And Mitch would get home from work and he's like, "Oh, hey AJ." So I got FaceTime
still there,
and he helped me build a gaming computer. And then after that, he actually taught me through screen sharing how to use Premiere Pro. So like putting an edit together, and if I did something wrong, he'd be like, "Oh no, see where you grab that from that," and then he'd grab my mouse and like show me where to go. So it was one-on-one training through AJ. So I was very
amazing.
lucky.
Yeah, super
very
lucky. And what you just described, I went through myself. I shot a pilot episode of this show with Cowboy Tuned in December last year. Yeah. And it will never see the light of day. It was pretty crap. I had a lot to learn, but then trying to edit that on my previous computer, and I was just battling, and then I just cracked it and went and bought like an absolutely insane computer, because it just kills your creative, or it kills everything, because it takes so long and the computer's crashing and things are failing.
I actually thought that I was doing something wrong. Like I thought it was my editing, and I was just like, I'm so slow, and it actually was burning me out. Like I just was almost going to give up.
Well, it takes so long, right? Because then the computer's like freezing, or
and then you do 3 nights worth of work, and then it's just deleted. Like just vanishes. So I reckon he saved my creative passion and just gave me that really good leg up to, is that the right word?
Yeah, absolutely.
Leg up to,
Yeah, and I think that's something like, and don't get me wrong, like these are the simplest edits in the world, what I'm doing for this show, but like people that have never edited video just have no understanding of how much time and effort goes into it, right? And having like substandard equipment, it's a killer.
Yeah.
So a big investment, and obviously you knew that it was something that you wanted to do, so you invested the time and the money into it.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I had Mitch who he supports anything that I dream of, so vice versa. So I was very, very lucky that Mitch was like, yeah, if this is something you love, like let's pursue it. And I've, since AJ helped me, any other friends that, you know, it's a bit hard at the moment because I'm like back at square one now, and it's hard for me to feel like a beginner in something that I was so good at back in the day.
Because you haven't done it for a while,
I
right?
have not done it for a little while,
it's one of those skills that like you have to stay on top of, right? Especially with the programs, they change all the time, right?
So I definitely have lost my mojo the last few years. But back when I was editing a lot, any friends that needed help, I was always returning the favor because I knew how much it helped me with, like, when AJ, and he didn't want money, he didn't want anything. It was purely just to help. And it changed my life. Like,
yeah, that's amazing, hey?
Yeah.
And like, I fully relate to that as well. Like when I worked at Sony, I had a mate that taught me how to edit video, very basic sort of skills, but like, that's what I'm still using today.
Yeah.
And he saw the show the other day and was like, are you editing this in Vegas? And I said, of course I am, because that's what you taught me, like, you know, 15 years ago or whatever. So having that like head start is such a benefit, right? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
Like you open an editing program and you're like, what the hell is all this stuff?
Yeah.
I reckon I use like 1% of what the program's capable of.
Oh, now if I opened it, I'm in a position now where it's actually scary for me to think about going back into it because I know that it's
You'll be fine.
Right from the beginning. Like.
So it's good timing because just this week on Instagram, I saw a little edit pop up on the Mad Rig page, and the Mad Rig page has been dormant for some time.
It has. I actually didn't realise it's been 8 months.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
But you edited that, so, you know, you still...
I'm actually working with a mentor at the moment. And,
true.
Yeah, and he said to me, allow yourself to get excited about being creative again.
Yep.
And he said, what's kind of holding you back? And I said, it's more the fact that whenever I go on there to post something on Instagram, I have to think of a caption and I have to think of what people will like, and then it's no longer editing for myself anymore, like it's for other people. And he said, your purpose for creating for Madrig should just be to be creative.
Yes.
Like, post something just to be creative. Don't worry about what people will think. Don't worry about what will make people happy. Like, do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And creativity breeds creativity. So the more that you can be creative, the more that you'll get into that creative flow. So that's my goal at the moment.
I don't know the guy, but I 100% agree with him. And like, you know, like we sort of touched on earlier, I think, look, people can do whatever they want on social media and YouTube, and like, I'm all for people just doing whatever they want to do. But I think so much content now is like trying to get likes or trying to get engagement or trying to get brand deals, or people are doing it for like an ulterior motive as opposed to just doing it because they want to do it for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, like, some of the content that I watch on YouTube is probably quite weird, but like, I love the stuff that's super creative.
Yeah.
And I think people need to care less.
Yeah, care less.
You know, like, care less about what other people think. And if people don't like it, then that's fine. But if you like it and you're getting a reward out of it, then it's the right thing to do.
I think that's where I got a bit lost, is that I pretty much, you could say, 98% of my edits were never paid for, like never received money for, or very little recognition.
Yep.
And it just led to me being burnt out because that's what I was needing from it.
Yeah.
But now that I'm creating for myself and creating to breed more creativity, I've got a different purpose now. Like, I'm not chasing likes. Like, I couldn't care less if it gets 10 comments or none, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think as long as you've got that, like, ability to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve from creating the content in the first place, and if it's just personal satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm learning to direct my creativity more towards creating for us again, rather than chasing that external validation.
And if nothing else, you are creating like the sickest record of your family's adventures and growth, and
I've got to remember that.
That in itself should be the reward for you, right? Like, something I think about all the time. Like, my mum's always been amazing at photographing absolutely everything, right? And so growing up, we had bookshelves full of photo albums with like dates and everything, and like
organised.
I have like a full pictorial history of my entire life up until I left home, pretty much.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everything just lives in our phones or on computers, and like I think about it and I'm like, it's a bit grim, but like, what if I die tomorrow? What's going to happen to all those photos? Like, are they just going to be lost?
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, maybe because I'm old, but I still post albums on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I don't post them on there because I want anyone to like them or even look at them. I do it as a record of like the adventures that Nat and I have been on, and it's like, it's a good way of documenting it. And
you can post more photos in those too. Like
yeah,
you can
absolutely.
Bulk download them.
Like, we did that KI trip at the start of the year, and I put like 200 photos in an album on Facebook. I don't think anyone looked at it. I don't care, because it's there. And like, for you, you've got an even better version because you've got so much video content of your adventures, right?
Kind of, because Instagram could be deleted at any moment. You know?
It could be.
Like, and that's all my work.
But YouTube probably won't.
Yeah, I don't post everything to YouTube though, which I probably should.
Even if they're just unlisted, keep them for yourselves, right?
Yeah, I should do that.
But I don't know, it's so funny for me to hear you say that, like, that you were, you know, I understand you chase the acknowledgement and that's like, that's just a personality trait and that's fine, but people love the stuff that you created.
Yeah,
people
but it's funny.
Loved it.
It's funny because people didn't even know I created it either. Yeah. So it's funny that I was chasing acknowledgement, but then not showing people that I made them.
Yeah, and you weren't telling anyone.
Yeah. So it doesn't. It's kind of conflicting, right?
Oh, so, it's just human nature, right? Like
self-sabotage.
Yeah, and you don't want to be one of those people out there going like, make sure you like the video. Like, you know, no one wants to hear that.
Nah, and I think that's where we've had pretty clear boundaries with that side of things. Like, we've never physically promoted products on our page. We've never said like and hit like and subscribe and all that sort of thing. Like, we've very much tried to keep it as authentically us as possible. So, and
if you're watching this, you absolutely should subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm looking at you.
Yeah, subscribe to him, ours if you want, but I don't care.
No, it's so funny. Like,
I don't know when my last YouTube video was, to be honest.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not very good at this YouTube stuff, but like, I watch heaps of YouTube content, and I'm so sick of people telling me to subscribe to their channels, because I'm like, if I like what you're doing, I will do it. I'll just do it so that I can curate my page so that I see what you're making, right? Like, it kind of reminds me of when you walk into a shop and you're happy browsing, and if I want help, I will find someone. But that, like, the people that come up to you and they're like, can I help you? Yeah. And then they come back. You're like, no, just leave me alone.
I'm like, no, I'm all good. Like, I'm an adult.
I don't know. It's a weird world that we live in, and YouTube is a particularly weird world. But as I said, you've got like some amazing stuff on there. And something that I said to Mitch the other day that he suggested that I repeat to you is that I know that you have a lot of footage that's never seen the light of day, because I've been with you when you filmed a lot of it.
I have probably at least 6 years worth of footage that I have backlogged, and that's probably another reason why I kind of went into this like fight or flight kind of mode. It was like overwhelming at how far behind I felt. And then I'm like, and my child is getting older, and he's now 9 on Saturday, and all the footage is him when he's like 3. So I'm like, it doesn't.
But don't you want to show him?
Yeah, and I do. And he actually said to me the other day, hey Mum, like, I love watching our magic stuff. Like, can you make some more? And that will probably be like one of my biggest driving forces, I think.
And you want acknowledgement and recognition, getting it from your own boy, like, surely.
I know.
And also, I really, from a personal, selfish perspective, want to see all the footage that you shot in the Simpson Desert, because that was still one of the best trips I've ever done.
Oh yeah, and you were on that.
Yeah, we were there. Mitch and I chatted about that the other day.
That was definitely a highlight too.
Oh, it was sick.
I did a watch this space video for it. A highlight. Yeah. I said, video coming soon, I think.
That's right, I remember that, and then it just never came. You've also got like an entire Land Cruiser build.
Oh, filmed. That's episode 1, episode 2 is coming soon. I think that was 4 years ago.
Mitch claimed a bit of responsibility for that. He said most of the footage is him just swearing at you, telling you to go away because he was like stressed and struggling.
It was very stressful.
But now you've got this vehicle that's taken you around so much of Australia and created so many memories, right?
When we when we first left on our trip after, Mitch had rebuilt the Mad Rig completely, ground up.
Yeah.
Like, donor car, converted auto petrol into a diesel manual. There's ducks.
Oh, we've got heaps of ducks. So what is going on here?
And to be honest, when we first left on our trip, I was like counting the Ks, and I'm like,
When's
is
it
this thing going to fall? No, like fall apart. Like, he's not a mechanic.
Yeah, no.
And we got to Cairns, and I was like, I think I can start trusting this now. Like, we are in Cairns from Sydney. I'm like, that's a fair whack of
it's
distance.
a few thousand Ks.
We ended up, traveling all around Oz, and I am so proud of him.
Yeah.
Like, just...
What an amazing thing to contribute to your family as well. 100%. Like, it's not just a car, right?
Yeah. And I can totally understand why he was just in a foul mood building it, because it was a slog. Like, it was...
I wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't know how.
Yeah, well,
we'd be in a go-kart or something.
Yeah, not even. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's something that I know that you guys get, and so many people in four-wheel driving that have done long-distance touring in their vehicles. You build such an emotional connection with the vehicle because, like, being serious, it can be life or death if you're in some of those situations and your vehicle lets you down. So, like, for him to have built that in a shed.
And it has never let us down.
Yeah.
That car, we travelled Oz for pretty much 2 years.
Yeah.
And we had one blown rear diff. Like,
it happens.
There's electrical stuff that are now rectified, but they were like little glitchy lights and things. Other than that, in our touring, I don't even think it was luck. It was just Mitch's ability to put things back from where they came from.
Well, my car's pretty much the same setup as yours, but in an 80 series, and I've blown 2 rear diffs, and I've got the same electrical issues he had, and I got mine professionally done, and I paid a fortune for it. So, like, doing a conversion of that magnitude is like, things are going to go wrong. It's the nature of the beast. So for him to have done that, I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And you guys have had so much fun in that car, right?
Yeah.
I just realised I forgot to do something
at
the start of this.
Fast Five.
Yeah, what the hell? How is it that you know what's going on and I don't? I'm supposed to be the host of this show. Hold on.
Do you want me to ask you? Have you been asked?
Nah. I'm the host of this show. I ask the questions. Right. The first thing that comes to your mind. Mitch failed with this because he took too long to answer. What's your dream car?
A Scout.
International?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Girl Scout, Lindsay. Have you seen that car?
The blue one?
The blue one.
In America?
Yeah.
Oh man,
So
if you guys haven't seen that, check that out.
If I had a Scout, it would have to look like that though. Like,
she's a sick photographer as well.
Oh my God. I'm going to say it. I think that's my favourite page on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've followed her for a while. That car's gangster and she takes mad photos.
Her photos, her style, her car, just, everything. I love that page.
I'll throw a link up actually to her page because I don't know her, but amazing.
But I don't actually normally have favourite cars or anything. And as soon as I saw that one, I was like, oh my God.
Because there's something about it, right? It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That might be the best answer that I've had so far. A couple of people have said like 79 series and you know my thoughts on that. What's your favourite place in Australia?
I have to say Cape.
Really?
From our trip.
Yep.
I just think, other than the fact that you can't swim in the ocean up there.
Yep.
But the adventure, the people, it was just wild. It was so fun. It was jumping off waterfalls, off-roading, pubs, fishing, meeting so many people like of different walks of life. Just, I don't know, it just kind of had it all. And
I've not been there. We're planning to go there, and a number of people on this show have said that Cape is the best place they've been. And someone, I can't remember who it was, but described it as like the last like true wilderness frontier. Like, it's still so wild up there. So
I mean, we haven't done Arnhem Land.
Yep.
So I can't speak on like the wildness of that. But I guess the touristy side of things, like I'd say Cape for everything that it offered.
Yeah. And you guys spent ages up there.
We spent 4.5, 5 months in Cape.
So you're qualified to speak on that.
But to be fair, we actually did a helicopter ride up there for Ryder's birthday as well.
Oh yeah, Mitch talked
dropped.
about that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, dropped on the island.
See, because it's hard because I don't know what Mitch has talked about.
Yeah, well that's good.
So
that's why we're keeping you guessing, and that's why you're doing your own episodes so that you don't just rely on him. Now we're getting to the hard hitting questions. Is it a Palmer or a Palmie?
Palmie.
Thank you. Favorite band?
You won't like this because you don't like country.
Oh, I won't know what you're talking about.
I love Chris Stapleton.
No idea who that is.
His just his voice. I just really, because I've been trying to think about this because I had a heads up on the Fast Five because I have watched episodes, but also Mitch was like telling me what they were.
You know, I was gonna change them, but then I should have just thrown like absolute curveballs at you.
But yeah, I love all kinds of music.
Yep.
It was so hard for me to actually think of like one person to pick.
Yep.
But he came on today and I was like, yeah, I like that.
See, I'm the odd one out because like pretty much everyone I know likes country, and I go to the Denny Ute Muster every year, which is like a massive country music festival, and I just don't go and watch any of the artists because I don't know who any of them are.
Do you walk around with earplugs?
No, not that bad, but everyone's like frothing about these big American country artists, and I'm like, who? What?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe one day it'll just click for me, but that day has not come yet. What would you eat for your last meal?
Controversial, but I love fruit.
Fruit? You're about to die. You can eat anything on the planet. You don't have to be healthy anymore, and you're going to eat fruit.
A smoothie bowl, to be exact.
Is that like an acai bowl or whatever?
Similar, but like not the acai one.
Oh, right.
Like fruit, like I'm talking like tropical flavour.
Yep.
But loaded, like granola.
Like eat until you're sick.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Peanut butter on top, like all the fruit. Yeah, I'm a sucker for those.
So I was talking about this with Ben Costello, who I had on recently, and I think it was Ben, and I was saying about sorry, it was Tommy Barnes, and I was saying that there's a website with all the death row prisoners'
think I heard it,
last meals. It's not a website; it was actually a book.
Oh.
And I read this book years ago, and it's I don't know if it's like this guy did a bunch of research, found out what the prisoners' last meals were, and then he like recreated the meals. So there's a photo, and then it says what the person was like on death row for, and then what they ordered.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because some of them were like one piece of white bread, and then others were like 4 lobsters, 2 Scotch fillet steaks. Like people were going all out, and some people were really simple. So that was the motivation for asking those questions. And my favourite answer so far is Mitch.
What did he say?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Like the healthiest guy I know, and he's like, yeah, ice cream.
100%, that's him.
Yeah.
He could devour 6 1-litre tubs of ice cream in one night. He's a weapon. We actually call him Python Jaw.
Yeah, really, with the ice cream.
With anything,
yeah.
But especially ice cream.
Well, when you burn like 10,000 calories a day, I suppose you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah, and Ryder and I actually have to get quite protective of our food because Mitch will just come in and like demolish everything.
See, I can relate to that because I'm banned from having ice cream in the house because if it's in the house, I will just eat it, and then Nat will go to get some ice cream and be like, well,
and misses out.
Where is it? I'm like, that's been gone for a week.
Yeah.
On a creative note, obviously you've travelled a lot, you've filmed a lot, there's a lot of 4-wheel drive content, but also you've been raising a little boy on the road.
Yeah.
And one thing that you created kind of out of the blue, which I was super impressed by, was your colouring book.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about that.
So during COVID, Ryder was actually in school at the time. And so this was after we'd left, like after we'd tried to do our trip the first time and then COVID hit. So then we ended up back at home in Sydney and the schools all went into lockdown. And so he was actually homeschooling, but like through the school for about 6 months of that year. And the whole time he was home, he was nagging me for pictures of trophy trucks. Like, Mum, can you print me out some pictures of trophy trucks to like colour in, or like all the trucks he wanted, and I just could not find them.
Was this after he'd been to Fink or before?
No, before.
Yeah, right.
He was just truck obsessed.
Yeah.
And I scoured the internet. I even thought Pinterest would deliver for like colouring pages for boys, and I was like, no, I just can't find any. And then so I said to Ryder, I said, well, why don't we make our own? Like, let's go through Pinterest, and I let him pick all his favourite cars.
Yep.
Like he picked army trucks, trophy trucks, Jeeps, 79s with canopies, like snow track cars, like just everything. Like we have this full Pinterest page. And I contacted a guy on Instagram called the Overland Design. I don't know if you've seen his stuff. I think he's in America. And he does like Illustrator cars, and they're all coloured, and then he just like sells them as prints.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him and I said, hey, any chance that you'd do the line work without all the colours for a colouring book? And he said, yep, like this is how much it'll be. And he was so good to work with. And anyway, I sent all the cars. We actually have enough, speaking of like me leaving things in the past and not following through, we have enough for probably 3 more colouring books.
Oh, true.
That I just haven't printed. So yeah, I sent them all to him, paid for them all, and it was a really, really cool project to work on with rides. And I said to the print shop, because it actually cost us more to print them than we did to sell them.
Yeah.
Because we only did a small batch. I think we did about 300 and like sold them all. And it just cost me so much because I was so particular with how it was made. I wanted it like not quite A3, not quite A4.
Oh yeah, well then instantly you've increased
like
the cost.
A custom size. I wanted the pages to be thick enough that it didn't go through the other side. I wanted it to be one-sided so that if you wanted to frame them,
you can pull
there
them
was
out.
nothing on the other side. And then I wanted a perforated edge so you could tear them out easily and not rip the pages. So it was very specific, which is why...
having done a lot of printing over the years in my job in marketing, I know that what you just described is very expensive.
Very expensive. And I wanted to use an Australian printer, so I used a print place.
Admirable, but also crazy, yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, and I said to the print place, because I had to pay like $50 or something for the sample book because it was so specific, and they had to set their printer up for that one book. And I said, I don't even care. I just want one book at least to give to Ryder and say, hey, we did this together. Yeah. And look what you can do if there's a gap in the market. Look what you can do with an idea. So yeah, I actually have it here, hiding behind me. This is an old one. It was like the original, the OG.
So is that the $50 one?
It is probably, yeah. And Ryder's actually like coloured in. That's fun, like some of them.
Yes, sick.
He's actually done some really good ones recently that he left. Oh, there's a GME truck.
Yeah, boy.
But yeah, so they're all perforated edge and just...
So cool.
Yeah, really, there's a...
And I've not seen anything like this.
Yeah, I know. So again, I cannot wait to have... Yeah, there's a...
Amazing. Oh, the Mog.
Yeah. So we actually sold out of them, and it says like on the front, created by Ryder, and it's got all about us on the back.
Yeah, sick.
But yeah, we designed that together, and that's probably one of my proudest moments, I think, is
You should be proud of that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And like that's something that he will remember for the rest of his life.
He actually stood up in assembly at school and showed his whole school what he created, and his school bought 2 boxes and kept them. They've kept copies in the library, and they use it to print them off so that they stay nice. And his whole class, or pretty much his whole grade at school, bought one. Yeah. And for the next couple of weeks, they were all coming in with show and tell with his books that they'd coloured in, and he's like, "Well, that's mine."
yeah, I made that.
Like
he
showing off. Yeah. I was like, "It's okay, Ryder. Like it's a good thing."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, when's the 2nd edition happening, Amie?
I know. I've actually got that spark because I know it's a great idea, and I'd love for like all kids to enjoy it.
All little boys.
Yeah.
Generalising here. I know it's 2024, but all little boys love cars and trucks. And like, I know when I was a kid, if I had something like that, I would have frothed it. Yeah.
And also, I actually reached out to one of my friends whose sister works at like the Children's Hospital, and I sent a box of books there, and I'd love to be able to do it on a scale where that's possible as well. Like just, I would love to give in that way without it costing us an arm and a leg. Like
maybe we should talk. I've got some ideas.
We should definitely talk. But yeah,
all right.
I just think it's such a beautiful idea, and like boys aren't channeled in that way to colour in, to like sit. And I've had so many comments from people, Ali and Ryan from Off Grid, they actually said this is the first time our boys have sat down quietly and just coloured in because it's something they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And boys are always go, 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 and I think it's because there's like Spider-Man and that, but Ryder was never interested in that. It's like trucks.
Yeah, and kids that grow up in our sorts of families.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a daughter, but I can guarantee you she's going to be into cars. She has no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's exposed to. And like, I was just thinking when you were flicking through those pages, like, damn, Ryder's got great taste in cars. And it's like, well, I know where that's come from.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Mitch and I are pretty aligned in terms of what we like. And I think having something that a little boy can resonate with is going to make them interested in it, right?
Yeah.
So during COVID, you were sort of homeschooling, but still through the school.
Yeah.
And then once all of that absolute insanity kind of simmered down a little bit, that was when we did the Fink trip.
Best trip.
The best trip.
So good.
It was.
Wow.
And then,
a lot went wrong for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, you snapped your car
trip.
in half, but apart from that, I think it was a good trip. But then when Mad Rig version 2 happened and you guys hit the road, you decided to homeschool Ryder full time.
Yeah, and that's something I was trying not to do, to be honest.
Okay.
I never had intended on homeschooling. So, which is why we had planned on leaving for our Oz trip when Ryder was 4.
Yep.
Because it was going to be a year and it was going to be before he started school. And because COVID kind of threw that out the window, we had no other choice. And obviously, I just had to apply to homeschool. So, I found it very, very daunting, the thought of even going through that process. There's a lot about principals rejecting you taking your kids out of school, and a lot of opinions of people saying how your kids are going to... There's a lot of mum guilt there about your kids falling behind, and like it's not the right thing to do.
Yep.
And as you know, like we lost my dad, and I also think that Mitch said he didn't touch on this, but Ryder and I almost died when Ryder was born.
No, we didn't talk about that. I wasn't sure how much you wanted to go into.
No, and I'm happy to share that. Yeah. That's kind of like rewinding a fair way back.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is a non-linear show, so you can talk about whatever you want in whatever order you like.
Well, I'll go back to that, but so the reason why it was such a push for us to just do this trip was because so much had happened.
Yep.
And life's too short. And it was kind of, I got to a point where I was like, there's no other way, like there's no other option. I just have to make it happen. I just have to apply to homeschool. I have to spend however long I need to spend preparing a plan to send to the homeschool department to just get it done.
Yeah, right.
But I delayed it for as long as possible.
Yeah, because it's a full-on process, I imagine.
Yeah.
Having never done it myself, but
yeah.
So there's a lot of, I guess, government bureaucracy that you got to work through, and a lot of barriers. Yeah.
So once your kids are enrolled in a school system, they will not unenroll them until you've enrolled them in homeschooling.
Okay.
Or somewhere else. Like they need somewhere to go, basically. And to get approved for homeschooling, you have to do a plan that aligns with some sort of curriculum. You have to disclose what subjects you're going to cover, how you're going to do it, what resources you're going to use, what specific things they're going to learn in that next year.
Yep.
Pretty much all the nitty-gritty of
So you're writing
schooling.
a curriculum?
Yeah. So
and are there resources available for that stuff?
There are, like Reading Eggs and like those sort of programs, but you pretty much with homeschooling you decide what avenues you take, so which is pretty cool as well.
Yep.
It kind of leaves it up to you as parents.
So for example, you don't have to teach your kids religion if you don't want to? No. Well, that's cool.
And like science, you're supposed to teach science, but like however that fits in your life, like whether it's just experiments or whether it's just theory or like...
Just lighting fires in the bush.
Well, that's another thing.
I'm sure he's pretty good at that by now.
Yeah, he's great. Well, not wildfires, but yeah, he's great at helping.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realise and what I wanted to mention here was that there are Facebook groups that support homeschooling.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of people who've already done it for a long time submit their plans, and you can use them as a template.
Ah, right.
To then write your own. And you can use it as a guideline, and there's so many.
So how does it work for like testing? Do you have to do, like, because, I mean, primary school was a long time ago for me.
Yeah.
So I don't really, I'm sure I did tests, but like, do you have to do, like, is there certain things that you have to do to meet the requirements, or you just set it up yourself?
There's no test. You can do NAPLAN testing
Yep.
if you want, just to gauge where your child is at in terms of the levels. But they just require you to do an annual report, like a teacher would.
Yeah, okay.
And just say where their strengths were, weaknesses, where they can improve, and then you submit a plan for the next year about what you're going to work on for the following year. So, yeah.
So you've been doing that for a couple of years now?
Yeah, I think I've done 3 now.
How's that been?
It gets easier. It definitely gets easier. So that first one, which is what I was talking to you about earlier, it was just
crazy.
like,
Yeah.
I was just postponing it as long as I could because it just scared me. Because I think the thought of being declined was like too much for me. Like I just really wanted it to happen. So
yeah, because that was like,
that was our trip.
Your plan was hinging on that fact, right?
Yeah, and I didn't have a plan B. If, you know, they knocked me back from homeschooling, I was just like, well, that's our trip. So
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm very lucky that Ryder's principal is so supportive of us travelling.
Yeah, okay.
So it made it a lot easier.
And would you say, was there anything that you thought was going to be hard that turned out to be not so hard, or vice versa? Are there things that have been more challenging than maybe you thought?
With schooling?
Yeah.
It was much easier when we were travelling, just because you could get the schooling done and then have so much fun and like adventure
New
and
places
new
and all
places, and it just kept it like interesting. And also we went to like the Dinosaur Museum and the Qantas Museum, and then you in Cape York with crocodiles, and like there's so much to learn from. So I think that traveling definitely helps. But I personally have just bought the Excel books for English and maths, and there's also grammar, spelling, like all different books on their year level.
Yeah, okay.
And we just work front to back of those.
Yeah, true.
And then at least I know that he's learning age-specific things that are important. So, yeah, that kind of is how I gauge where he's kind of learning.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I suppose that the obvious benefit is all the real world experience that he's gaining at the same time, right? Like I'm sure, I mean, he's seen more of the country than I have, and I'm nearly 40, so.
I don't think he knows how lucky he is. I don't think he'll ever know. Probably when he's older.
No,
he'll
because
look back.
he just, that's just
life.
his life, right?
It's just life for him. And that's something else that I love about homeschooling rides, is that we've got that flexibility.
Yep.
He can wake up in the morning at whatever time he's ready to wake up, and we can have breakfast as a family, and we're not rushing off in traffic and dressing him in a uniform and getting him off to school, and there's no stress in the morning, which I love. And skate parks are empty during the week, and you know, like it's just, if we want to go away and visit family or something, like we don't have to ask permission to go on a trip. And there's just so much life in homeschool.
Yeah, heaps of flexibility, right?
Yeah, and it's really, really beautiful.
So what about the social aspect of it? Like, I know you guys are super tight as a family and like you do everything together, but like in terms of interaction with kids the same age as him, like does he get that from like friends of yours that have got kids of similar age, family? Like how does that side of it work?
That was something we were very careful about, is because he's an only child.
Yeah.
And we travel to very remote places when we travel.
Yeah.
And so there's not,
there's
not a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we made sure that we were always pulling into caravan parks and helping him meet other kids.
Yep.
Like, because he's quite shy in introducing himself. And then now that we're here for a little bit, I've joined like some homeschool groups, and we took him to a homeschool market and helped him meet some homeschool kids. And so we meet up every week with them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we
so even here on the coast, there's like a sub-community.
Huge community.
It's like a little underground gang.
It's a little bit. It is.
Yeah,
and we signed him up to the BMX club, and that was pretty hard on the road, is that we could tell he wanted to belong in a community, but we were part of the travel community. And so we couldn't commit him into any sort of sports or anything.
Yeah, because it's so transient by nature, right?
Yeah, and it's actually really difficult for kids to meet new friends on the road, because then they say goodbye and there's no contact.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, we meet friends and you're chatting on your phone or
you're on
through
Instagram
socials,
or whatever,
you're connecting. And it's just kind of like a really harsh cut-off for them.
Yeah.
Which I sympathise for rides.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
A little bit.
Although I mean, it's very different, but I remember even going on like family holidays when I was a kid, and you'd like meet holiday friends, and then you'd just be like, see ya, and then you just never see them ever again. And it was always kind of a bit weird, but I suppose that was just one, little 2-week block for me, and then I'd go back to my friends at school.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's going to wherever.
So I try and make sure that I get the parents' numbers,
Yep.
like the mums, and just keep in touch. And he's FaceTimed a few times with some people.
That's
and he
cool.
always every now and then he'll ask about them, and I'll message the mum and say hey, did you want to catch up, or where are you in Australia at the moment? And if they're nearby, we'll try and I'm very proactive with trying to keep rides connected.
Yeah.
So,
And so now he's doing BMX and he's also doing jiu-jitsu.
He's doing a lot of things. I feel like I've got 5 kids.
Yeah. Well, when
one.
Mitch listed all the things he was doing, I was like, holy crap, this kid's got a better social life than me.
He's doing BMX racing.
Yeah.
And he's playing the electric guitar at the moment. So he's doing guitar lessons and jiu-jitsu, and he's skateboarding and surfing, and I just can't keep up with him.
So Action Man Junior.
He's very much like his father, and that scares me.
It should scare you. He will be jumping off cliffs and out of planes.
My whole Gibb River Road experience
was just them
cliff
throwing
jumps.
themselves off things.
Cliff jumps. And then I try and do it. I'm very protective of because Mitch sends himself off some big cliffs.
Yeah, he's silly,
And I worry about him. And I'm like, really? That's borderline a base jump right now. Are you sure? And he just loves it. And then I do the smallest one possible and hurt myself.
Yeah.
He's worry about yourself.
I don't jump off things. I tried to jump off a waterfall in Fiji when I was 10 years old and axed myself really bad. And I'm just I'm too clumsy for this.
Yeah.
I'll just watch people like Mitch do it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have your work cut out for you with Ryder throwing himself off various high points of the planet.
The thing I worry about though is Ryder's got my little bit of hesitancy and
Oh, you can't have that.
And clumsiness. And Mitch doesn't have that. So that's what concerns me about Ryder having Mitch's action man fearlessness.
Yeah.
Mixed with my
being a bit of a Gumby.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes, but
so something that you mentioned, and I wasn't sure how comfortable you'd be talking about it, but I think it's worthwhile to mention if you're comfortable. Ryder's entry to this earth very nearly went about as pear-shaped as it can go.
Yeah, it was wild. I don't know how long we've got, but I can
go for gold.
Yeah, cool. So I was pretty much had a great pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. Ryder was tracking well, everything was fine. And I was about 33 weeks pregnant and had this really weird sort of cramping happening. And Mitch was at work and I was on my own, but luckily we were living at the back of Mum and Dad's place at the time. And so I was just I'll call Mum, just because I felt a bit shaky. I was I just call her just so that she knows that I'm alone and not feeling 100%.
Yep.
And then I thought, maybe I'm just hungry. So I had an apple, and it just started getting worse and worse and worse, and the cramping. And so I ended up telling Mum to come down and just to be with me. And then she said by the time she got down to me, I was blue lips, just struggling to breathe. I was just trying to lean on the bed, lean on the wall, lay on the ground, trying everything I could to breathe, I guess. It was all getting really painful. And luckily we did a calm birth course 2 weeks prior to that, and they taught us how important it is to breathe oxygen to your womb space, so that your baby has oxygen. And I just kind of thought they're in there, they're happy. My breathing has nothing to do with them, but it actually gives your baby oxygen. And so I was very, very aware of how I needed to really get some breath into my body, and it was getting harder and harder. So then Mum actually called Dad and said we need to take Amie to hospital, something's I think she's having the baby. And I called Mitch and said, you need to get home from work. He was only around the corner. And so he rushed back home, and Dad took off for the hospital so fast. Like, there was actually police packing up a RBT.
Yeah.
And so he pulled in there and he's like, can I have a police escort to the hospital? Like, my daughter's in pain, like a lot of pain. And they were like, nah, like, drive safe. And they were finished. They were just standing around, like, and so Dad just like took off. They were like, drive safe, and he like, took off
it doesn't
so
burn
fast.
out of the RBT, yeah.
Yeah, and Dad got us to hospital in like 15 minutes. I don't recommend speeding, but like, Dad...
Time and a place.
Yeah, Dad did everything he could to get us there. And they actually said if we were a minute later, we would have lost Ryder, and 10 minutes later, I would have died as well. So
holy shit.
We actually got to hospital, and my stars aligned that day. Like, there was no one in the emergency room, not a single person.
Which is like a freak occurrence.
Yeah.
Normally it's hours,
like, And we went in, and I was sitting there, and the lady at the desk said to Mitch, oh, you need to fill out these forms. And I yelled out to him and I said, tell her I'm 33 weeks pregnant and that I'm about to faint. And as soon as I said that, they bypassed all documents.
Forget triage, straight in.
Yeah, which is unheard of, really, I've been told. They have actually done a lot of seminars about my case because they bypassed it all. Like, didn't know really anything about me.
They just knew that it was all
bad.
bad.
And if they hadn't have done that, both would have died in the emergency room. So they took us straight up. They had Ryder cut out emergency C-section within 7 minutes of getting to the hospital.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wild. So anyway, they took me up. They put the Doppler on my stomach, and Ryder's heart rate was down at 55, and it should have been like 100 and something.
Yeah, right.
And so then they knew he was distressed, and they had him out, emergency C-section. And then I bled out from the emergency C-section. And luckily I had mentioned to my obstetrician that I had a history of liver tumours, which were misdiagnosed 4 years prior. And I was told that they were not affected by hormones, but they were actually a very rare kind that were. And so they actually grew from, like that big to about that big during my pregnancy.
Pregnancy hormones.
Yeah, and burst. So when they cut my C-section, I had lost 3.5 litres of blood internally, and that just pretty much all poured out. And on that day, there was a spare theatre room. There was a bowel surgeon walking past as they were cutting my C-section, and they like pretty much grabbed him and pulled him in. There was an anaesthetist in the tea room, like just everyone was there.
Oh man.
And so Rides was resuscitated, and he was taken to a hospital that had a NICU ward an hour away. And so I was then undergoing surgery, and they found the tumours and stopped the bleed, and I was resuscitated as well. And so poor Mitch at this time, I was knocked out. So like for me, I wasn't there.
Oh man, I can't even, having just gone through not even a tenth of that with Nat, and obviously Layla was delivered by emergency C-section, like that was stressful enough, and everything was like reasonably chill.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine what he went through.
So Mitch had, his son resuscitated and then sent to a hospital an hour away, and then his wife was unknown. Like, they couldn't tell Mitch whether I was going to make it or not. And so he was just in the hallway of the hospital, like just beside himself, pretty much, Mum said. So and then I was too unstable. I'd lost too much blood to kind of remove the tumours. So they just stitched where it was bleeding from and closed me back up and stabilised me. But I didn't meet Ryder for 4 days.
Oh man.
Yeah, so, but like I've never ever felt like that was unlucky, ever.
Sounds like you got real lucky.
Yeah, I feel so blessed to have my child, for my child to survive and be healthy, and for me to have my health and a supportive husband. Like, there was not one moment where I felt like, why me at all? I was like, I am so lucky. And I really, really feel for the women that go through something like that and then come out the other side, if they do, without a child. Because I just can't even fathom going through that. So,
yeah, I can't even begin to understand what that would have felt like for you guys. And I suppose, like, for such a absolutely horrific experience, you had the best possible outcome, right? As you said, you've got a beautiful son, you've got your health.
Yeah. And that's why we live the way we live. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been a journey, like to get my health back to training and things I love. But we live, like, to me, I've had 8 years of life that I almost didn't have. I've got a child every single day, which is why I love homeschooling him, is because, like, every moment I get to spend with him is like a moment that I almost didn't get.
Yeah, so. And your connection, like, I mean, every parent's connection with their child is deep, but, like, you and Ryder are particularly close. And I think it's so beautiful that you have such a tight relationship and you have that bond, because it so nearly just turned to shit.
I think that's why as well, like, I knew pretty early on, because of all this that happened, that I was only going to have Ryder as well. Like, Mitch wanted 5 kids.
Oh my God. Can you imagine 5 miniature Mitches running around?
God, no. And then he was like, when I was pregnant, he's like, I'm only doing this twice, max 3 times. Like, because I clashed with his brother a lot. Yeah. Jake used to come over and, like, eat all my pregnancy foods. Like, I'd buy 1 nectarine and Jake would just come to the fridge and eat my nectarine, my fruit, right?
Yeah. So it's back to the fruit.
And then I would just not cope well.
Yeah.
And Mitch is like, we can't do this 5 times. And then obviously after everything we went through, he's like, we're like, yeah, 1's good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, you don't want to fly too close to the sun again, right?
Yeah, and especially because it's hormone related. I mean, they did go back in 6 months later and 2 weeks later, remove the tumours, but then I've had, like, 2 surgeries after that as well. But yeah, they've removed the tumours, but it's still a chance that the hormones would affect. Yeah,
so I guess that puts the whole thing into perspective for you guys and the way you've chosen to live your lives, and you know, making the most of absolutely every single day. And I guess a lot of people say that stuff, but you guys do it.
I think that's as well the way we travelled. So Mitch always says now, looking back, I wish we'd had, like, some sort of income on the road. But I'm different. I actually think I'm really glad that we didn't. I'm so glad that we saved money to travel, because there was no other
you were just present,
expectation. Right? We were present with each other every single day, and we saved hard to do that trip. And we just wanted to enjoy it for what it was. Like, every day we could just be present and enjoy our days together. So yeah, I think we've seen some families, like, obviously, that sustain it for longer, that are working on the road, and it's just life on the road. Yeah, you're not doing that freedom piece, I guess. Like, so yeah. It's so phenomenal. I'm just still processing what you've just told me. Like, I knew, obviously, you know, about what you guys went through, but to hear it like you just described it is just, it's so full on. And for you guys to then turn it around and just go, well, we're just going to grab life and do it. I think it's amazing. Well, I think so. Losing my dad pretty much a year exactly after that was the kicker for us. It was just, my dad worked so hard with my mum to build the life that they built, and then he now doesn't get to enjoy that. So that was for us. I don't know, I had really mixed emotions though about leaving, because I had my mum on her own, like, not on her own. I have other family here, but life's so short and I didn't want to miss time with my mum and my family. But at the same token, like, we had this dream of doing this trip for our family. So I was really torn on, like, I don't want to miss time with my mum now after losing Dad, but this trip's once in a lifetime. So, and I'm so glad we chose to do the trip. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh man.
And now we're back with Mum.
And now you're back and you're getting that time with her. Yeah. And I guess you've made the most of it, and you guys continue to make the most of it.
Yeah.
It's, I suppose, what happens when you're married to an action man, and there's not many idle moments in your lives.
There's not. No. I've actually been studying recently human design. I don't know if you've heard of human design. Quantum human design, so it's like human potential basically.
Yep.
And I'm realizing now the differences in Mitch and I.
Yep.
And I require like deep states of rest, and he's like wakes up with a full tank of energy every single day, and his goal is to burn it every day.
Yep.
And it makes so much sense.
Yep.
Because he burns me out. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Well, that's why he needs many activities to amuse himself, right?
I know. So I'm learning to like say, you know, I need this time for me to edit or to do this.
Go to the gym.
Yeah, well, like, no, I love the gym, so you can't do that without me. But fishing's one. Did he touch on that?
Yeah, not on the show, but we spoke about that.
Yeah.
Because obviously now we've both got boats, and he said we need to do family boating days together, and then you and I need to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go out for hardcore fishing days. And I said, I think that makes perfect sense.
Did he talk to you about our family fishing day the other day?
He did, yes.
How we went out on the famany fishing day, and he jumped in the water and went spearing.
Yeah.
And Rides and I were bobbing around on the water like sick family day.
Well, yeah, I've been juggling that lately as well, because Nat's very accommodating of my fishing, but having a 6-month-old baby, a 11-month-old psychotic Jack Russell, and my wife on the boat, and me wanting to have a hardcore day of fishing doesn't sort of add up. So I guess that's
so they can jump on our boat.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? Like, we go out and do a family day, and you guys can kick back and chill, and I know
drop us at a beach.
You and Nat will love that. You can sit on the beach all day, and Mitch and I will go out and chase fish all day. That sounds like a bloody good compromise to me.
Yeah.
Well, mate, it's been awesome to sit down and chat with you. I've really enjoyed it, and I thank you for being so open and so honest. It's been really cool.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome.
I did actually think it was going to be Mitch and I together, so
no,
I couldn't hide
no. See, when I shot a couple of episodes with Liv and Tommy, Liv was the same.
Yeah.
And she goes, "What do you mean? There's only 2 chairs? Like, where's Tommy going to sit?" And I was like, "Tommy's going to sit in the office because I want to talk to him later."
Yeah.
So it's not about. I mean, obviously you guys are, you're a couple and you're a family unit, but I want you to be able to tell your story, and I think you've got, as we've just shown, you've got heaps of awesome perspective on life, and it was great to hear that from you.
No, and I appreciate that, because so much of being a mum as well is like almost losing yourself in motherhood a bit, and I'm sure Nat can relate to that a little bit too, or a lot now.
Yeah, a lot.
And you kind of learn to just be part of the family unit, and then it's so important to be yourself in situations,
and have your own
life
identity within that family unit, and have your own identity.
No,
awesome.
So
thanks again, mate.
It's been awesome.
All right, guys, we will see all of you next time on The Outer Side.